Howdy everyone. So now you can see I've got the top cowling in place. Of course, this is still all temporary because I'm working on getting it trimmed and fitted correctly. But I am making some good progress now. So where I had left off last weekend, I was just getting this trimmed mostly at the front, and I've talked about that already, the fit between the front, top, and bottom cowling. I took that as far as I wanted to at the time that I was comfortable with, because I didn't want to make so many changes up here that somehow that may affect some things going on back here. I just wasn't sure. So I decided to stop fooling around with the front and actually get the cowling fitted to the airplane. So like I've talked about, you want to have it centered so that it fits nice on the fuselage. You want to have the front centered so that it lines up and fits nice with the spinner back plate. And you want to pay attention to your gap between the cowling and the back plate. You want to also pay attention to spacing. I like to use the edge of the back plate and the edge of the cowling, this distance here, compared to the same on the other side, the distance from the edge of the backing plate to the edge of the cowling, just to make sure that the cowling is basically centered. You can kind of look around the spinner, the orientation between the spinner back plate and the cowling, to see how things kind of fit. Things of that nature. So like I've said, I've basically, like I did with the cowling, with the canopy, the same thing, the same type of method, if you will. I just let the cowling kind of sit and take a set where it naturally wants to be. I don't want to force it into any kind of a position and then rely on rivets and the hinges to hold it there, because that will induce stress and potential cracking. So I just kind of lay the back on and let it take a set, and then I kind of adjust the front end to get it to fit and space it and things of that nature. So there's no stress on this. It's basically just laying on the airplane. So having it set up that way, like I've already talked about, I drew my 2-inch line and came over and drew my lines on the cowling, and then I've trimmed that back. I believe I've talked about that. Maybe I haven't. I don't recall. But if you follow the written instructions, you measure from the edge of the skin. You come back 2 inches and draw your reference line all the way around. When you put the cowling on, it's going to overlap. And you just simply measure from your line onto the cowling that same 2 inches and draw your line, and then you can trim to that line. And then the cowling should fit nice right up against the skin when you put it back on. And it does work incredibly well. It was almost perfect all the way around at the first shot. So now I'm starting to do the actual drilling to attach the cowling to the hinge that's underneath. And the way that I do that is how I had done it with the wheel pants, is with the included magnet kit. So I got this magnet kit that came with my finishing kit from Vans. It comes with these, I believe they're rare earth type of magnet balls. They're very, very strong. And these little plastic washers. And I've explained this in detail on my my wheel pant, one of my wheel pant videos. And the magnet kit comes with instructions. But you basically you put a magnet, you tape a magnet to the back side of the hinge at the hole location that you want to drill. And then with the cowling in place, you put a hinge, or you put one of the magnet balls on top, and it will find that magnet that's underneath. And then you tape down the little plastic washer, pull the magnet off, mark the hole of that washer, and then that gives you a location to drill. I'll show that next time I have it set up. So I've done that twice and worked out just fine. And I'm just going to continue to work my way around with the magnets and get some holes drilled. All right, so that's kind of where I am at the moment. I'll come back here shortly and talk to you guys later. Howdy, everyone. All right, well, I am still working on getting this cowling fitted to the fuselage, and here is where I am so far. So I believe I've already talked about putting the cowling on the plane, letting it take a natural set, and doing your measurements as far as distance from the front to the bulkhead of the spinner, and the distance from the top of the cowling to the top of the spinner. You want that. There's a dimension there. I think it's like 1/8 of an inch. You actually want the front of the cowling to sit below the top of the spinner to allow for engine sag over time. That's actually talked about in the written instructions. So like I said, before I get too carried away with fitting the front, top, and bottom cowling together, I wanted to get the cowling actually attached to the airplane. Because again, I just like to have things real world attached. Basically like flight ready attached before I get too carried away with trying to trim and measure, because things move around too much. So I wanted to get this top cowling actually anchored to the fuselage. Then I can bring up the bottom cowling and work on the fit between the two later on. So here's what I've done. I believe I've already talked about this 2-inch reference line. This is talked about in the written plans. Again, just as a recap, you measure from the front edge of the skin all the way around, back 2 inches, and make your line. When you put the cowling on originally, and you get your distance set up here between the cowling and the spinner bulkhead, the back part of the cowling will overlap the fuselage. Once you have it positioned the way that you want it, you just measure from your reference line that same 2 inches and make your mark on the cowling all the way around. And then that is your cut line. And that works surprisingly well. I was very impressed how almost perfect the cowling fit after I had made that initial cut. So I trimmed it just a little bit here and there, again, just so I can get these dimensions correct between the cowling and the bulkhead of the spinner. So now I'm happy with that for now. So I'm going to go ahead and start drilling the holes for the cowling to attach to the hinge that's underneath. Now I was originally going to use this magnet kit. This is what I had used on the wheel fairings. This is a magnet set that came with my finishing kit. It's a bunch of round magnets and the plastic washers. I had tried that a couple of times and the holes didn't line up. There's a little bit too much play between the magnet and the washer that's underneath. And when you even with the magnet in place, you can actually take that washer and move it around. So I did not like that. A couple of my holes did not line up the way that I wanted them to, so I've abandoned using the magnets altogether. At this point, all I'm doing is coming in, again, cowling in place. I've got a couple clecos. I had a couple clecos already started from when I used the magnets. Get it in place. Cleco it if you can, if you've already got some holes drilled. And I just reach up underneath. This probably won't show because of the lighting. But I just reach up underneath and I mark the holes with a marker through the pre-drilled holes in the hinge. That piece of tape is there just so when I final drill or when I match drill the cowling to the hinge, that tape is sticky side this way. And it catches all of the debris from match drilling. That's all that tape is for. So again, I just reach in here from underneath best I can with a marker, and I mark the pre-drilled holes from the hinge onto the cowling itself. Take the cowling off with a very small drill bit. I drill those hole locations that I had marked. I put the cowling back on. I put my tape underneath to catch the debris, and then I match drill through the cowling and through the hinge to the proper size. And you can see I've got this many done already. So I just continue that all the way around. I'll just continue to work my way around and mark the holes as best I can, if I can, and drill and match drill. So I'll keep doing that as much as I can. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do some of these from underneath. I might not be able to, but I'll worry about that when I get there. Talk to you guys later.